Hello, everybody.
Hey guys.
Today we've got Chef Craig. He's going to show us a little bit about a smoked pork butt.
Hey. How y'all doing? Not that you can answer me. So, the pork butt. A couple of things about the pork butt. Number one, this is like the in Tennessee, Carolinas, and a lot of places down south. This is the thing that people think about when you say barbecue. Now, well, unless you're in Texas. If you're in Texas, this is not barbecue. This is, pork. In Texas, if you're in Texas, it's, barbecue is typically known as is just beef. Okay? So, a couple of things about pork butt. Number one, pork butt is a misnomer. It does not actually come from the butt of a pig. That's the ham, that's the leg, okay? So the pork butt actually comes from like the shoulder region of the pig. And actually the picnic shoulder is the part that you think of, like if you look at a pig and you see what you see as its shoulder, that's typically the picnic shoulder. That's not what this is. This is a Boston butt. The Boston butt actually comes from farther back on the back of the pig. Okay, so shoulder right above that and closer to the back, that's where the pork butt comes from. And it's called a Boston butt. And a little food nerd history here. The Boston butt gets its name because the butchers in Boston used to keep the cheaper cuts of pork, and they'd keep them and transport them in barrels. And those barrels were known as butts. And so, yeah, I know, right? Yeah, like I've researched it. That's the funny part, I think. So anyway, so that's where a Boston butt comes from. It's not actually the butt of a pig. Now, a couple things about a pork butt. Number one, this is typically the namesake of barbecue. Whatever you do to this, people typically think of this as barbecue, but that's kind of, where our idea of our tagline, anything but traditional, comes into play. Yeah, we're down south, but I mean, man, I'll smoke anything. There's a number of things that you don't typically see on a restaurant that you'll make into barbecue. And so we don't just think of this as barbecue. There's a number of things that we think of as barbecue. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you a little bit about pork butt here, and if you can get in on this. This butt started out probably around 8 pounds, and I haven't weighed it after cooking it, but it shrank down tremendously. The methodology of cooking it is going to be what you call low and slow. And what that means is you cook it at a low temperature for a long amount of time, which makes the cooking process slow. And although, people will say, well, when it's done, it's done. We are not a big believer in that. We're a believer in repeatable results, and you do that by measuring it. Now, a couple things on that. One thing, it's very handy to have a thermometer when you're doing something like this, because every single time, I know that when I cook the pork to a certain internal temperature, it is going to be tender, juicy. Most of the fat will be melted down. The connective tissue inside a piece of meat that makes it kind of tough. Like if you ever get a steak at a restaurant and you gnaw on a piece of, feels like rubber band, that's connective tissue. Connective tissue doesn't tend to disintegrate under high heat cooking methods such as grilling or sauteing or whatever like that. But it does when you do low and slow cooking. And a Boston butt has a tremendous amount of fat on the inside of it, and it has some connective tissue as well. And so all that stuff is rendered down and breaks down into essentially, gelatin when you cook it low and slow. So what I did is first I rubbed it down. All of our rubs and sauces are homemade. None of our rubs and sauces do we get out of a bottle. You can't buy them out of a store. You can get the individual spices out of the store, right? But the sauces, the rubs, everything is made here inside. And that's because we wanted to make sure that we had a very unique flavor to present to you. So we rub it down, and then you go on ahead and you get your fire burning at the right temperature. Some people believe 200 is good, 225 is good. Anywhere really between 225 and 250 for a piece of meat like this is going to be a-okay. Some people use hickory wood, some people use apple wood for pork. I've even heard of peach wood being used for it. It really doesn't matter. Typically you want to use what type of wood is indigenous to your area. The type of wood that is indigenous around here, we operate out of old hickory. So hickory wood certainly is one of the woods that we use, but it's not the only wood that we use. We like to use a mix of woods depending on the type of meat that we are smoking here at the Candied Rib Company. Now, what I'm going to do...
I'm dying to see this thing pulled apart.
Yeah, we're gonna pull this thing apart here. What I did is I cooked it. It cooked for 10 hours or more until it reached its temperature. Over 200 degrees is a good starting point for pulled pork, in my opinion. I mean, you can, if you want to slice it, you might want to cook it less time. So anyway, we're gonna hit a pause here. We're gonna pull this pork, and then we're gonna assemble our less than traditional sandwich for today.